Today our story is about a real dictator. The story of Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small town on the border of Austria and Germany. His father, Alois Hitler, was a strict and domineering customs official, while his mother, Clara, was gentle and affectionate. Young Adolf had a difficult relationship with his father, who opposed his artistic ambitions. From a young age, Hitler showed a rebellious and introverted nature. He performed poorly in school, except in subjects like history and art. His dream was to become a painter, and he applied twice to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna but was rejected both times. These failures deeply affected him. He remained in Vienna from 1907 to 1913, living in poverty, selling postcards of his paintings to survive. During this time, Hitler developed strong nationalist, anti-Semitic, and anti-Marxist views, ideas that would later form the backbone of his political ideology. When World War I broke out in 1914, Hitler enlisted in the German army, even though he was Austrian. He served on the Western Front and was wounded twice. He received the Iron Cross for bravery, which became one of his proudest possessions. The war gave Hitler a sense of purpose and belonging he had never felt before. However, in 1918, Germany surrendered. Hitler, who was temporarily blinded by a gas attack, was devastated by the loss. He believed the army had been stabbed in the back by weak politicians and communists, especially Jews. This belief in a conspiracy against Germany would later become a central part of Nazi propaganda. After the war, Hitler returned to Munich. The Weimar Republic was struggling with political instability, inflation, and unemployment. Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, DAP, in 1919, which later became the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, or Nazi Party. Hitler quickly rose to prominence as a charismatic speaker and a master of propaganda. In 1923, emboldened by Mussolini's rise in Italy, Hitler attempted to overthrow the Bavarian government in what became known as the Beer Hall Putsch. It was a failed coup. Hitler was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in Landsberg prison, though he served only about 9 months. During his time in prison, Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, My Struggle, a semi-autobiographical manifesto that outlined his political ideology and future plans for Germany. The book laid out his anti-Semitic beliefs, Lebensraum, living space, theory, and his hatred for the Treaty of Versailles. Though not widely read at first, it later became a cornerstone of Nazi ideology. After his release, Hitler realized he had to gain power legally, not through revolution. Over the next decade, he rebuilt the Nazi Party, organizing rallies, creating youth groups, and forming alliances with conservative elites. The Nazi Party exploited public anger over the Great Depression, blaming Jews, communists, and the Weimar government. By 1932, the Nazis had become the largest party in the Reichstag, German parliament. Though he lost the presidential election to Paul von Hindenburg, Hitler's influence could not be ignored. On January 30, 1933, Hindenburg reluctantly appointed Hitler as Chancellor of Germany, hoping to control him. But Hitler quickly consolidated power. After the Reichstag fire in February 1933, he persuaded Hindenburg to pass the Reichstag fire decree, suspending civil liberties and allowing for the arrest of communists and dissenters. Soon after, the Enabling Act gave Hitler dictatorial powers. Once in power, Hitler wasted no time turning Germany into a totalitarian state. He banned all political parties except the Nazis, silenced the press, and used the Gestapo, secret police, to crush opposition. His government created massive propaganda campaigns to glorify Hitler as the Führer, or supreme leader. In 1934, after Hindenburg's death, Hitler combined the positions of Chancellor and President, giving himself full control. The Night of the Long Knives, a purge of rival Nazi leaders and perceived threats, solidified his dominance. Economically, Hitler reduced unemployment by initiating large public works projects, such as the Autobahn, and by rearming the military, violating the Treaty of Versailles. His policies initially won public support, but beneath the surface, terror reigned. Hitler's ideology viewed Jews, Slavs, Roma, disabled individuals, and others as racially inferior. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 stripped Jews of citizenship and rights. Anti-Semitic violence escalated, culminating in Kristallnacht in 1938, when Jewish businesses, synagogues, and homes were attacked across Germany. Hitler's foreign policy was aggressive from the start. He sought to undo the Treaty of Versailles and unite all German-speaking people under one Reich. In 1936, German troops entered the Rhineland. In 1938, Hitler annexed Austria, Anschluss, and later demanded the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia. Western powers followed a policy of appeasement, hoping to avoid another war. In 1939, Hitler shocked the world by signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union, an agreement between two ideologically opposed powers to divide Eastern Europe. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, prompting Britain and France to declare war. World War II had begun. Hitler's early military campaigns were swift and successful. His Blitzkrieg lightning war strategy combined rapid movement of tanks, aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm opponents. By 1940, Hitler had conquered Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. He stood at the height of his power. The Nazi regime now ruled most of Europe, with Fascist Italy as its main ally. But Hitler made a critical mistake. He invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Operation Barbarossa. Although the Germans advanced rapidly, they were halted by the Russian winter and fierce resistance. The war turned into a long, brutal conflict. At the same time, Hitler's racist ideology escalated into genocide. The final solution was a plan to systematically exterminate all Jews in Europe. Death camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor became centers of mass murder. 6 million Jews and millions of others, Roma, disabled people, Soviet POWs, and political prisoners, were killed in the Holocaust. By 1942, the tide of war began to turn. The United States had entered the war after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, and the Allies grew stronger. The Germans were defeated in the Battle of Stalingrad in 1943, a major turning point. From then on, Hitler's armies were pushed back on all fronts. The Allies landed in Normandy on D-Day, June 6, 1944, opening a Western front. German cities were bombed relentlessly. Internally, opposition to Hitler grew. In July 1944, German officers tried to assassinate him in the July 20 plot, but the attempt failed. Hitler survived and launched another wave of purges. Paranoid and increasingly isolated, Hitler took refuge in his underground bunker in Berlin as the Soviet army closed in on the city. By April 1945, Germany was on the brink of total defeat. Berlin was surrounded, and the Nazi regime was collapsing. Inside the fear bunker, Hitler married his longtime companion Eva Braun in a brief ceremony. On April 30, 1945, realizing the war was lost, Adolf Hitler shot himself while Eva Braun took poison. Their bodies were burned, as per his instructions. A few days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. World War II in Europe was over. Hitler's legacy is one of destruction and evil. His actions led to the deaths of over 60 million people worldwide, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. He turned Germany into a machine of war and hate, exploiting the pain of a defeated nation to create a brutal dictatorship. After the war, Nazi leaders were tried at the Nuremberg trials for crimes against humanity. Germany was divided, and the world entered a new era marked by the Cold War. Hitler's life is a warning. It shows how charismatic leaders, fueled by hate and ideology, can manipulate the masses and bring unimaginable suffering. His rise reminds us of the importance of democracy, human rights, and vigilance against extremism. Adolf Hitler's story is not just a biography of a dictator. It's the story of how a failed artist from Austria became the architect of the deadliest conflict in human history. From the trenches of World War I to the horrors of the Holocaust, his life left a scar on the world that still shapes our politics, memory, and moral conscience today. The end.